What's going on? This is Saturday Afternoon Wrestling, and it is a great day to talk about wrestling. We have all sorts of headlines and things to go through, but before I do, a couple unfortunate notes that we have to hit on first. It is some injuries that have happened in both AEW and WWE. Some unfortunately timed injuries. We had Mina Shirakawa has confirmed broken her hand. It apparently happened during the Women's Casino Gauntlet at All In last weekend. And there's conflicting reports on when it happened. I saw one report say that it was as she was taking Athena's finisher for the pin and the end of the match, and then I saw another one say it was actually when she hit her spinning back fist on Thunder Rosa. It just connected too hard, so I'm not 100% sure where it happened, but very unfortunate news. She had just won the interim Ring of Honor World's TV Championship on Friday, and then on Saturday you get the news that you've broken your hand at a match. That cannot be fun. What a whiplash of emotion. So hopefully she can get well soon. Also coming out of All In, we had the announcement of Adam Cole stepping away indefinitely, potentially forever, with issues related to seemingly concussions. He has had multiple injuries like that in the past, and just what a bummer for such a massive talent and someone who has such a visible passion for wrestling. It's such a shame to constantly see these injuries and these setbacks, stop him from doing what he loves. I can't imagine that feeling of here we go again. And something that I haven't seen really talked about a whole lot with this, and with him in particular, that I think we need to applaud and shed some more light on, is the fact that all of the articles that I'm reading have mentioned that he basically self-reported. He told Tony Khan the morning of All In, hey, I don't feel right. And they kind of came to the decision together. And I think that that's something that needs to be commended, because that situation, that moment, he's had as many setbacks and stop-starts as he's had in his career and in this AEW run in particular. To still put your health first like that, and to still be able and willing to, step up in a moment like that. I shudder to think if this was, the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, I don't think anyone would be doing that. I don't know how many people in any sport would have done that, honestly, at that time. There's such a stigma around it, around playing through it and just getting through it. And so I really think we need to commend Adam Cole for speaking on it, and for knowing something was wrong, and for not trying to just gut through it. I think that that's an extremely commendable thing. And then on top of all of that, as if the injury news from AEW wasn't bad enough, it hasn't aired yet. I'm recording this Friday night, but Saturday's Collision taping last week apparently also included an injury to Colton Gunn. The Gun Club just came back at All In on Saturday, and they were entered in this Saturday Collision's $200,000 tag team Fatal 4-Way. And the reports are that the Guns were unable to finish the match because of this injury. And I don't know if they were just kept off TV because Jay White was banged up and Juice Robinson was hurt, or if one of them had a lingering injury that had to get better as well. But to just come back and then a week later you're dealing with this again, less than a week later you're dealing with this again. It's such a bummer. I'm so disappointed for those guys. They're getting huge reactions on All In when they made their appearance, so they were probably just so excited to get back to work with Juice Robinson and Jay White whenever he comes back. And so just a huge disappointment for them. I hope it's nothing serious, nothing that's going to keep Colton Gunn out a long time. Maybe even something that he can continue to come and do TV tapings, just on the side, just so Austin Gunn can keep getting time, because when one of them gets hurt and both of them just disappear, it's a huge loss to the tag division. It's, not having that Bullet Club Gold, that Bang Bang Gang dynamic is a huge loss as far as I'm concerned on Dynamite and on Collision, because of the unique chemistry that they bring. So I really hope that he is okay and it's not as bad as the reports are kind of making it sound. And then on the WWE side, there is the news about Seth Rollins, which no one knows what's going on with his knee. There are reports that it's super serious. Now there's conflicting reports that it's not that bad, and they're really playing it up because they want him to be a surprise cash-in at SummerSlam. I'm not going to go that far, but I think they did a couple interesting things that kind of enforce that conspiracy theory. Seth Rollins gets hurt. They immediately, Monday night, the next night, or 2 nights later, broke the return Roman Reigns glass to bring him into the storyline with Braun and Bronson and Paul Heyman, which I'm sure he was going to wrestle Seth Rollins anyways, or was like looking at that as a SummerSlam match, but feels like they were like, uh-oh, we really need some star power quick here, and they brought Roman right back immediately. The other thing that is kind of interesting here is CM Punk winning the gauntlet on Monday Night Raw to face Gunther at SummerSlam now. Because CM Punk finally winning the title back in WWE, and you know, I can just picture him in the ring crying. He's laying on like 2 Pizza Hut logos, a Slim Jim logo, whatever else they have, Wingstop. Trying to remember what else they have. And he's crying, he's so happy. And then Seth Rollins' music hits, and everyone's like, oh my god, I thought he was out for 8 months. And he comes running in, cashes in, fulfills his promise of saying as long as he is alive, CM Punk will not be a champion in WWE. And we get that huge Money in the Bank cash in, and it's a way to make it an interesting cash in for Seth without running back his infamous one at WrestleMania years back on Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Obviously he has to do something different to cash that in, to avoid those comparisons. It feels weird not knowing what his injury status is and speaking as if it's not a real serious injury. In a perfect world, this is how it would go and he would not be that injured, because I just don't want to think about him missing 8 or more months because of what he's meant to WWE over the years and over his career. I think I don't think people realize what a workhorse he is until there's times where he's gone. So I really hope he's okay. It's just such an interesting thing, and part of me too feels like fake injury angles and doing things like that are a little too close to the sun. Like it feels like a little bit like bad karma. Like I don't know. Maybe that's just me, and that's just me being superstitious. But like I don't know. I don't know if I would want my company running a hey, my knee just blew out storyline for me. I don't know. It feels weird. I don't know. Maybe, like I said, maybe that's just me, but it seems a little weird. Fortunately, though, that is it for the injury news. We do have a couple other things I wanted to mention. I wanted to record last week, and I just did not get the chance. And it's so funny because then when I don't record and I miss a week or I let it sit a couple weeks, I always seem to somehow get billed for the podcast hosting that I paid for. And it's like it's a real wake up call. It's like, oh, I gotta lock back in. I just got billed. I gotta make it worth it. So I plan on sticking to that schedule. But something I really that caught my eye last week that I wanted to talk about is this Charlotte Flair Players Tribune article that she wrote that it's amazing. It might have single-handedly turned her into one of the biggest baby faces on SmackDown. It came out the Friday before Evolution 2, and it was just basically about her life and her career and the pressure of being Charlotte and what happens to women as they get older in wrestling and feeling like, you know, you're over the hill and the fan react and everything. It was an extremely vulnerable article. It was really well written. I cannot recommend reading it enough if you have not yet. And I really do think that combined with pairing her with Alexa Bliss and kind of letting her lean in more to not like a perfectly cultivated and composed image is going to pay huge dividends. Tonight on SmackDown, she wrestled Raquel Rodriguez. She was getting massive pops the entire night. Every move. She did like a couple things that she does in every match, like the cartwheel flip over the turnbuckle onto the apron. And you could hear the crowd like, ooh, like it was another level of support for her than I have heard in a long time. And you know, I get the feeling that in interviews and things she would let on like oh, it doesn't bother me, like these are people, I'm playing a character. But like I don't know, the way she's acting, the way she's wrestling, the looseness that she has right now in the ring and how she just seems to be unbothered suggests to me that this has been a huge boost and benefit to her, and I'm glad to see that because I think she is a generational talent. I don't think anyone could argue that. Over the course of her career and currently, I really do not think there are probably 5 women better in WWE right now than her. She is right there, and to see her get moments like that and reception like that now after, you know, months and months and years of like the like everything's handed to you, go away type treatment, letting her lean into the like ultra heel. I'm sure that gets old. I'm sure like they tried to bring her back as a babyface for the Royal Rumble this year, and you know that lasted what, 2 weeks before she was back to a heel and like yelling at the fans. Like I'm sure like as fun as it probably is to play the heel, I would imagine like after 3, 4, 5 years, you maybe want something a little different. And so I really can't recommend her article enough. And it's interesting because it coincided with this report that came out on the most harassed people in wrestling online, like by volume of like negative tweet and bad tweet and things like that, like internet toxicity. And 11 of the 15 most harassed wrestlers were women. And one of them was Tegan Nox, and she hasn't wrestled for WWE in I think 5 months, 6 months, and that was just when she was released. She hadn't been wrestling for WWE for weeks or months before her release even too. Like she was just not really doing much. So to see that much hate be sent, and I don't think it's all like tribalism related. I don't think it's all AEW fans running to tear down the WWE women and then vice versa. I don't think it's WWE fans tearing down the AEW women that were on this list. But it was really eye-opening. It's crazy to see just the deluge, and like you saw the women kind of responding to it like, yep, that sounds about right. Like I didn't think I'd be that low. And I just can't imagine it. It's a really like pairing it with the Players Tribune article that Charlotte wrote, like was really effective. I am obviously it wasn't together, it just happened to come out at the same time, but it was a really eye-opening thing. And I'm sure too, and this was kind of something I was thinking about, I'm sure that the people that need to see that and realize that like what they're doing has like negative results and impact, like I'm sure there's people that's what they want, but I get the feeling that the people that need to see this and understand that their words, even if it's just tweets, have value and have, an impact, they're never going to see it. That's just kind of how it goes. The people that need to see the thing are never going to see it. And it's always going to be people seeing it that are like, this is awful. I wish there was something more I could do to help this. But I really, I can't recommend Charlotte's Players Tribune piece enough. And just think about it. Think about it before you tweet. It was an eye-opening thing to see just how many women wrestlers are getting barraged with terrible things all day, every day. Think about how often you open social media on your phone, like Twitter, Instagram, any of that. Think about how often you do it. Like, oh, you're just waiting for something, or probably 100 times a day, right? Like, imagine you do that 100 times a day, and every single time you open it, your notifications are like, go die, you suck, like you're only hired because you sleep with your coworkers and your bosses, like just awful stuff. And I think people don't really realize the impact that has. Okay, I think that is enough of the negative downside of things. There are a couple things I want to talk about this week, a couple headlines that I think are extremely interesting. We'll start with probably the worst kept secret of the week. They confirmed it this week a couple days later because it was such a badly kept secret. But this weekend, this Sunday, is TNA Slammiversary, and it is being reported AJ Styles will be in TNA. He is expected to answer Steve Maclin's open challenge. Awesome. Give me all of it. I hope he's got one of his old themes. I hope he's in old gear. I really don't think WWE will let him do that, but like as soon as they announced this TNA collab and they've started like integrating the TNA wrestlers more and more into NXT, I've been waiting for AJ Styles to make his way over there in some capacity for at least a match or two. I kind of had this thought that he might be the one to beat Trick Williams and win the TNA World title and take it back to TNA. But that kind of also like defeats the point of Trick winning it, especially if you don't get like the homegrown TNA guy, getting that moment and that boost that comes from pinning Trick. So I don't think they would give it to AJ, but like the conquering hero coming back and doing it one more time was just a really interesting idea of a story for me. And it's also like, AJ wasn't doing a whole lot. Now it's looking like he's going to get that SummerSlam match with Dominic Mysterio for the IC title, which will be awesome, but him back in TNA is going to be something incredible to see. I'm sure they ended up deciding to announce it because it's going to have a huge impact on pay-per-view sales and the buy rates and everything, so I don't blame them for that, but like if it had just been a rumor and he showed up, that would have been, I don't think it's going to be any less special a moment. It's just a different scope of a moment when it's a complete surprise like that, or like, oh, we've heard whispers, we're not 100% sure, but like we gotta wait and see. But him and Steve Maclin are probably going to put on an absolute barn burner. I don't know if he'll win. It'd be interesting if he wins. Then I'm very interested in AJ Styles hanging around TNA for a few weeks, a month or two. Who know? I don't know if he's going to be dethroning Dominic Mysterio at SummerSlam. So AJ Styles mini run in TNA one more time, like one of the greatest, if not the greatest, TNA wrestler ever. It just feels right. It just feels right to have him going back. And so I don't usually follow TNA stuff as closely because there's so much already going on in those two companies. But I'm definitely more interested now. I'll definitely be watching Slammiversary on Sunday to see that, as well as a couple other things on the card. I'm really excited to see AJ back in that environment. And then I can't decide. I have two more things I want to talk about, and I can't decide if I want to start with Angry Goldberg or WWE Unreal. I guess I'll go with Angry Goldberg because Goldberg is big mad. He had his retirement match last Saturday on Saturday night's main event in his hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. He lost to Gunther in a 14-minute match that was his longest match in, I believe, 23 years. I think it said 2002, 2003. Might have been 2013. If I'm wrong, if I've got that mixed up, I'm sorry. But either way, over a decade since he had a match that went longer than, I think, 4 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. So, hats off to him for the endurance and the performance at his age, and to Gunther for bringing all of that out of him in what was a very, a surprisingly good match for what it was. And then afterwards you get the big celebration, but Saturday night's main event is a NBC Peacock event, so it has a hard out, and they cut off his speech to the Atlanta crowd, like 20 seconds into it. And not a great look, but WWE that night had uploaded his whole address to the crowd on YouTube. It had like 1.5 million views by Monday, like a day and a half later. But that did not stop Bill from going on the Ariel Helwani show and basically just complaining about the entire thing. Complained about the lack of the build, complained about it being a Saturday night's main event and not a pay-per-view, complained about the speech getting cut off, said that he had a whole handshake agreement on what a retirement run would look like in WWE with Vince McMahon back in the day. I don't know what he thought that was going to do at this point. And it's so weird, and it's become such a divisive thing. I've seen some people like hop on their shows and say that like, I don't ever want to hear the name Goldberg again. How could someone be so ungrateful? And then I saw something else that said, oh, well, his kid was getting like NIL interest from WWE to like bring into NXT at some point, and like that might stop now. I saw other people saying he should just, unretire and go to AEW and do a run so he can get a run like Sting did with his retirement angle, which was like perfectly done. And it's just kind of funny. It's so funny to think about because Goldberg, the last like 3 or 4 times he's popped up in WWE, he's kind of just ruined whatever they've had going on. He ruined The Fiend. He ruined Kevin Owens' Universal title run. And there's like at least 1 or 2 more things where he like just showed up, disrupted the entire story that was going on, left again, and the person that was impacted or interrupted never recovered. So I don't have a ton of sympathy for that. Also, like Saturday night's main event on network TV, probably in front of more viewers than would be on a pay-per-view or on another special event. Like you're on NBC and Peacock, like not just a Peacock thing, not just a USA thing, not Netflix. Like you're on NBC broadcast television. Maybe he just thought, oh, I'll get a Netflix match or anything. But I don't know. It just feels so weird. Like I understand being like, well, it didn't go the way I wanted, but like acting like it was a giant miss, like I don't know. It just feels weird. It definitely tracks with the things people have said about Goldberg over the years. Bret Hart in particular, I don't know if we could take everything he said for gospel, But it certainly highlights a lot of those things that have been negative statements about Goldberg over the years. All that said, I think congrats to him on a good career, on a successful career, and an incredible career. He'll definitely, I mean, unless this is too much now, he'll definitely get an induction into the WWE Hall of Fame, if I had to guess. If he's not already in it, I don't think he is though. He was actually inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018. Shows what I know. It's just such an interesting thing. It's so funny to see him like talking so shortly after it all happened. Like he could not wait to get how mad he was off his chest. And like, I don't know, it feels like they did a lot in a short amount of time. Who knows if that's just because they gave him that few time or he let them know late, like, yeah, I'll work Atlanta, that's what I want to do. And they had to put something together. But also, like, when I think of Goldberg, too, one of the first things that comes to my mind is what he said about Asuka and her streak when she was in NXT. And he called her, like, Asuka and was just super disrespectful. So I don't know. I think this might just be an instance of egos kind of getting bruised on the way out. And maybe things didn't go the way you wanted. Maybe he wanted the Sting special where, you know, they win the titles at the end of the night and then it just gets like, all right, we're relinquishing him. It's a tournament now. Like maybe he thought he was going to get that moment or needed that moment or had previously talked to Vince McMahon about, who knows. But to see him go and just like full like 40 minutes of like, I'm not mad, but no, like really it doesn't, but like it bothers me, but like I'm not angry. Like I understand. It's like, dude, I'm going to say 6 months or less and he pops up or tries to pop up in AEW to do something, do like another random one-off match or something that he can bill as his retirement match at that point. So if you have not seen, you don't have to watch the whole interview. Get the gist in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because he says it like over and over and over. You can watch really any portion of it you want. You don't have to check out the whole thing, but I recommend watching at least a little bit because it's kind of just funny to watch him like clearly so upset, trying to not be upset. And you know, it would be perfect for this next headline because the trailer for WWE Unreal hit YouTube, hit the media, whatever you want to say. I saw it on YouTube. It is, of course, the highly controversial WWE reality show that will be on Netflix that is all about backstage and the creation of some of WWE's biggest storylines of the year. And it's really interesting. It's super divisive because a lot of older wrestlers and fans are saying that it's too much. It's a step too far in going behind the curtain and showing people how the company works. And once you do it, you can't undo it. And it might have dramatic effects long term for what is just like a short ratings boost. And on the other hand, there's people that think like this is going to be great because it's probably going to be faker than Total Divas was. Like there's got to be something to it. There's going to be some sort of angle to, you know, make it interesting and dramatic without giving away everything. But I don't know. We'll see. It's interesting. The thing that stood out to me the most, honestly, though, because like it's clearly made to be like a Hard Knocks style show where it's behind the scenes. You got the people talking. There's so many different wrestlers that are featured. But there's a short clip at the end where CM Punk is out talking to people and he's talking to Charlotte Flair in the ring and he's like, Charlotte, you ever shit your pants in the ring? And she's like, what? I wouldn't tell you that if I did, but no. And it's such a funny thing because like CM Punk, like the story about him pooping his pants was part of his angry podcast with Colt Cabana when he quit WWE. He talked about how he was all hurt and how staph infection and all, they just gave him Z-Packs. And he was so messed up that he took a move and like just pooped it right in the ring. And that's how he knew, like he was like, okay, something needs to change because I'm too messed up to be doing all this. And so it's so weird that he would just be there like just shooting the breeze about that and like just bringing it up like that because it's such a well-known and contentious point in his feud with WWE. And so I don't know what the show is going to be. I don't know what to expect from it. I'm definitely going to watch it. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do like a recap or what it's going to be. I don't know. I think it'll probably depend on watching the show for myself and kind of going from there. But it's just such a bold swing. And you know, I read one other thing today that was kind of weird. So they keep announcing more and more things, more and more deals. SummerSlam's going to be 2 nights. This brand new Netflix reality show. Who knows how many seasons of this we'll get, how many storylines they'll dive into. But I read something that said they're adopting a TKO strategy when it comes to severance now. And I guess when WWE was just WWE, before the TKO merger and everything, when it was just WWE, if someone was let go, they were given their severance pay, and part of their severance included a month of pay for every year of service with the company. So if you had wrestled for them for 5 years, or if you were an executive that wrestled or worked there for 5 years, you were let go, you would get I think it was a month of pay, and then 5 more months to equate to your 5 years, something like that. And now what TKO is doing, what their strategy is cutting that in half. It's 2 weeks for every year of service now instead. And doesn't sound a lot, and in the scope of things for some of these high paid execs and the higher paid wrestlers, probably not a ton. But a lot of wrestlers are not at the top of the food chain when it comes to contracts. That's a really, really top percentage and minority group of people that are getting those super, super big deals. And especially on the corporate side, I can imagine there are tons of people in all of these cuts and layoffs that are really impacted, that are not making, the big 6-7 figure salaries. I saw something to compare it was The Rock's package for being on the board for TKO is a $40 million exit package if he ever is let go or anything, or that's his compensation package is $40 million. And I don't think he's got to worry about getting 2 weeks for every year of service the way that someone else who's a lower level executive or just an employee that does social media or editing or sound or whatever it could be. And so I read that the morale took a huge hit at the news of this. The WWE morale took a huge hit because not only now are their benefits impacted, their severance is impacted, but they're doing more now post-merger because they're not just WWE employees now. They're TKO employees that might work on UFC, they might work on boxing, they might work on WWE. They're juggling so many more things. And so to be doing all of that and then have your benefits cut like that, your severance package cut, when WWE and TKO as a company are not afraid of these bulk releases out of nowhere. I'm sure it's a really, really disappointing thing. And then you turn on the TV and see commercials for the brand new, I'm sure 7 or 8 figure reality show that they're doing. And there's so many instances now where the practices that they're using don't match the reports that they're giving. You can't be we have a brand new multi-year deal on this reality show, it's going to make this much money. Our SummerSlam tickets are, $1,700 if you want to get in the door for both nights. You can't flaunt all of that and then also have stories coming out where you're cutting the severance package or your morale is dropping because of other things that you're doing and putting in place. It's just such a weird dichotomy of things. I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to go that way. It feels like there's some sort of tipping point that we're going to hit. I don't have any idea when or what that could be. But that's something that stood out to me. It felt like it'd be weird to get up here and be like, they have this reality show coming out. It might be tons of fun. It might be weird. I don't know. And then just not mention anything about supposedly this devastating hit to employee morale. Which, yeah, who could blame them? I don't know. It's just WWE TKO. They're in a weird spot with this TKO stuff and with all the sponsorships and all the commercials and all the crossover, all the Jelly Roll, Logan Paul matches, the Jimmy Kimmel appearance that was wild. There's always been an interest in crossover appeal for wrestling and for getting as much legitimacy via the national media as you can and those celebrity crossovers. But I don't know. It gets to a point where it feels like it's Rockstar Camp. Where if you're a big enough celebrity or you do enough of an endorsement deal with WWE, you can just be in a match. You could just come get a match. And that actually does remind me too. I've been seeing all over social media that WWE apparently doesn't think Travis Scott is coming back. They were apparently disappointed at him being kind of wishy-washy, non-committal to just making WWE his full-time thing for like a little bit to prepare for a match. Opted to just, keep his options open and do everything else he wanted to work on. And so the report that I saw, the rumors that I saw were like, okay, that stuff is done. He's probably not coming back. And that's disappointing because they ruined their main event of WrestleMania for that. They did all this stuff with The Rock and the heel turn with John Cena and all of this, and it just kind of is gone. And like that's that. And I'm sure there's an episode of WWE Unreal that's gonna be about turning John Cena heel and WrestleMania and how they got to what they got to and why they went with Travis Scott and the finish that they went with. And now it's not even gonna pay off any further than that. But if you want to be cynical about it, they got to sell their Cactus Jack merch and their super expensive trading card packs and got to have those moments of influencers and people opening those and rocking the merch all weekend at WrestleMania through the Superstore and everything and online. So I don't really think at the end of the day they care if a storyline gets dropped or something ends up not making complete sense because it just kind of stops. Because they got what they needed for sure out of that deal, whether he wrestled or not. And that's a little side rant. I wasn't expecting to get mad about that tonight. But it's just gonna get into a point where you can't look away. Like anywhere you look, it's a WWE crossover. It's a celebrity making an appearance. It's crazy. It's everywhere now. When I think about like how I was teased as a kid for liking wrestling. Like, it's so interesting to see just the impact that time has and how things shift culturally over the years. But before I get all existential here, I will stop. That is everything that I wanted to talk about today. If you did not watch All In or Evolution 2, particularly from last weekend's packed weekend of wrestling, really highly recommend checking those out. You don't have to watch the full shows, but go through the matches, pick and choose a few. All In was 6 hours. It was a marathon of matches, but the work rate, unbelievably high the whole time. Evolution 2 was an instance that I think is a tremendous success despite WWE itself. Like, it is a full testament to the women that make up those rosters that show was as good as it was. Arguably the best pay-per-view of the year for WWE so far, and it was, I think, in large part because the women had their backs against the wall. They were done no favors with booking, and they had to go out there and just make it happen themselves. And I think at this point, it should be an undeniable fact that we get at least an Evolution every year. It should be in the rotation because there is so much talent in the women's roster. So if you do not see either of those, I know it's been a week. I know there's all sorts of stuff to catch up on now. The train moves, doesn't stop moving. But I really recommend taking some time to go back through those. And actually, that reminds me, one more bummer of an injury update. Will Ospreay is going to be out for at least a month, if not more. The report was that he was written out with the beatdown angle at All In to miss about a month to rest up some wear and tear and some nagging injuries that have been bothering him. But then Friday, this afternoon, I started reading that it was actually maybe more serious than they thought. And I really hope that that's not the case because I don't want him to miss Forbidden Door. And that's selfish, but he's so good. And I can't believe whatever these injuries are he's been wrestling through. I can't believe that because he has not looked like he's missed a beat this whole time in any of these matches that he's been having. So I really hope it's nothing but minor injuries and want to send well wishes to him as well as Mina Shirakawa, Adam Cole, Colton Gunn, and Seth Rollins, because I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on with Seth Rollins. So just in case, I hope he gets well soon. But that is it. That is everything. Please, if you have any thoughts, comments, anything I missed, let me know in the comments here, or I will put the email address in the description. You can always email. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate anyone watching, listening, anything like that. Anyone making any of this part of your daily routine or your day to day. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone watching or listening has a great rest of the weekend, and I will see you next time.